curious. It's been a lot in the news. Ukraine's drone strikes, their effectiveness, ability, basically tiny, cheap drones taking $1 billion worth of big, heavy equipment. How has that has it changed your thinking at all about what our needs are going forward in terms of having more of those cheaper, attritable unmanned systems, and also the vulnerabilities of some of the larger systems that we're building? How does that change your planning going forward? Or is the Ukraine-Russia war sort of unique and not applicable to some of these other lessons?
I can start, Congressman, and then turn it over to General Alvin. But to be honest, I don't think it changed my opinion at all. I've been very, very concerned with that threat for years now. We've seen it within the U.S. against many of our installations and our inability to deal with those, actually probably lower threat than obviously what happened within Russia. But that's been an ongoing threat that I think we've been thinking about for a long time. And it's going to take a whole-of-government approach to deal with in the U.S. It's very difficult to defend against that sort of thing if you're restricted to only operating within the geography of your base. I think we have to work with the whole of government to make sure that we have an approach to deal with that threat, because it is huge.
Specific on that in terms of, this is a system that we've been looking at that we desperately need now because of that, whereas maybe we shouldn't build all of this because it's really expensive and really vulnerable?
If I could, I'll turn to General Alvin, maybe take a couple of those.
Thanks. And Congressman, you make the right point where we shouldn't learn too much and we shouldn't ignore what happened in Ukraine, because there are geography-dependent, context-dependent. But I would say that when something like this happens, it turns the idea of small and less expensive capabilities from an academic conversation to a real conversation, because we've seen it. And so understanding the context that made it successful and those which might be limitations is important. But to Secretary Menk's point, we sort of always knew this in the back of our mind. So when we're looking at it from two directions, first of all, to your point of where are our exquisite systems and what are the vulnerabilities we hadn't considered before, and which might be most vulnerable to those that might have to cross an ocean and part of our continent rather than just the geography of Central Europe, understanding those nuances. But understanding also that there are the more sophisticated and dependent we are on those exquisite capabilities, the higher level of defense we need to have for them. The flip side that I like to bring up is something that solves another problem. When we see how effective these can be, we need to think about putting them into our offensive arsenal. And that's what we're looking at. The United States Air Force's our change and our new force design understands this sort of range of capabilities to include those when they can be responsive at low cost and be disruptive. So there's an offensive thing we need to consider on this as well.